If you told me a year ago that a drunken billionaire in a $3,000 dress would change my whole life at 2:30 in the morning, I'd have laughed you straight out of Sakura Palace, yeah. That's the kind of joke Manhattan usually plays on people like me. I was working the late shift again, watching the city's privileged pour imported sake down their throats like they were drinking tap water, and wondering if anybody would notice if I slipped out an hour early. That's when I saw her, Victoria Steinberg, or more accurately, the human embodiment of a do not disturb sign, teetering on her heels and about 5 seconds away from face-planting off a marble staircase. "Ma'am, let me help you," I said, careful to keep my hands visible. 3 years working at Sakura had taught me that kindness from a black man is sometimes seen as opportunism, and all it takes is one wrong look to ruin your whole night. "I don't need charity," she mumbled, clawing at the cherrywood wall with a grip like a cat clinging to its last life. Her hair was a mess. Her makeup was sliding down her cheeks, but you couldn't miss who she was, the hotel heiress who could probably buy and sell this whole block before breakfast. I tried to play it safe, told her I'd call a car, that it wasn't safe to go out alone like this, but she fixed me with this half-lucid stare and said, "You're not like the others. Why are you being nice to me? Everybody else just wants something." I didn't have a great answer. Maybe it was because I'd watched my mom break her back for years as a cleaning lady to keep us afloat. Maybe I just couldn't leave somebody that vulnerable on a cold sidewalk at 3 a.m. Or maybe I was just too tired to care about the risks anymore. Anyway, I got her into her Uber, made a mental note of her address, Upper East Side penthouse, naturally, and tried to shake the whole thing off as I clocked out. What I didn't know was that every second had been caught on the restaurant's cameras, and someone was already plotting to use that kindness against me. The next day, I walked in expecting a regular shift, and instead got a summons to the office from Chef Hiroshi, who never called me in unless something was up. When I got there, Morrison, the regional manager with the kind of professional standards that always seemed to leave people like me out in the cold, was waiting with a folder full of printed security stills. He started in with the usual. "We've received some complaints about your behavior, Andre. Harassing d'intoxicated clients. Offering unsolicited services outside working hours. Some would say you're trying to take advantage of vulnerable situations, especially with someone of Mrs. Steinberg's stature." I kept my voice calm barely. I just helped a client get home safely. Anyone would have done the same. But Morrison wasn't interested in the truth. He only cared about certain expectations and discretion, and he wanted me out before I became a problem he couldn't manage. Didn't matter how many customer compliments I'd stacked up or how spotless my record was in his eyes. I was just another black guy who'd forgotten his place. He all but told me to go look for work somewhere more suited to my profile. Thing is, while Morrison was getting rid of me, Victoria Steinberg was having a very different kind of morning. Turns out, she'd been a whole lot more sober than she let on, and she was about to use her power to blow a hole in Sakura Palace big enough to fit all the dirty secrets they've been hiding for years. If you've ever felt judged before you even open your mouth, you know there's a certain flavor of injustice that needs divine intervention or at least a good old-fashioned reckoning. I got my resignation the next Friday, wrapped in corporate buzzwords, and handed over by an intern who looked like he wanted to melt into the carpet. Operating cost cuts, they said, but the whole staff knew what it meant. Morrison had won. Hiroshi quietly slipped me an envelope full of 6 months' worth of tips he'd been saving for me, maybe the only kindness I'd felt all week. I called my mom, Rosa Santos, who never missed a call, even during her graveyard cleaning shift on Wall Street. "Mom, I lost my job." She didn't sugarcoat it, just asked straight up if I'd done something wrong. "No, Mom," I said. "I did something right." She came home at dawn, still in her cleaning uniform, and found me sitting in a kitchen full of scattered notes. "You remember that supervisor at Goldman Sachs who kept making you scrub the toughest floors?" I asked. She did. "He only did it because I never bowed to him," she said, not bitter, just matter of fact. "That's what Morrison did to me, too," I told her. I laid it all out, the fake accusations, the pattern I noticed where Black and Latino staff got written up or fired for stuff white employees did every day. "Sometimes," she said, "you have to choose between swallowing injustice or fighting back. You know which I chose." She'd raised 3 kids alone after Dad died in a work accident, faced every flavor of bigotry you can imagine, and never once bowed her head. What are you going to do, Andre? I'm not sure yet, but I'm not pretending nothing happened. Monday, I came back to Sakura Palace this time as a customer, not staff. Morrison strutted around like a king, glad-handing white regulars, ignoring the tables with people of color. That's when Victoria walked in this time sober, eyes sharp, taking notes. We caught each other's eye, just for a second, and she gave me the smallest nod. That night I got a text, coffee tomorrow, 9 a.m. Corner Deli, 72nd and Columbus. Let me back up a sec. People like Victoria don't just message people like me for kicks. And given that Morrison had used her name to push me out, I figured she had a very specific reason. I spent the night going through every note I'd ever taken about weird stuff at Sakura Palace, shady conversations, dates, customers who got special treatment, employees who vanished overnight. I never known why I kept that little notebook, but now it felt like my only weapon. The Corner Deli was the kind of place millionaires pretend doesn't exist. Victoria showed up right on time, dressed down, but still unmistakably out of my tax bracket. She didn't waste time. You were fired because of me, she said. Morrison said I filed a complaint. I nodded. That's what he told me. She slid her phone over. Only email she'd sent was thanking Sakura for great service and specifically asking them to thank me. Morrison made the whole thing up, she said. And here's why. My company owns a chunk of Sakura's parent group, and I've been investigating a pattern of racial discrimination in their hiring and firing. Morrison's been quietly removing Black and Latino staff, keeping just enough diversity in the kitchen to avoid lawsuits, but making sure no one Black ever gets a front-facing role. She laid out the paperwork: contracts, reviews, HR reports, customer complaints. All the proof I've been feeling in my bones for months. I'm building a lawsuit for systematic discrimination, but I need a coordinator, someone the other staff trusts. She paused. Also, I want you to manage a new restaurant I'm opening in Harlem. Profit sharing, employee ownership, the works. What do you say? You still there? What's the real reason? I asked. She smiled, not cold this time, but like she was seeing me, really seeing me. Because people like Morrison always underestimate people like you and me. That's how they lose. It wasn't just about a job anymore. It was about every insult, every random reassignment, every time someone like me got told to know their place. So I said yes, but not just for the job. I called former colleagues, got 2 of them to meet me. A third, Marcus, still worked there and was ready to help document everything. For 2 weeks, I became the organizer Morrison never saw coming. We recorded phone calls, copied emails, collected stories. Every arrogant decision, every standard of excellence he enforced was building the case. Victoria and her lawyers put it all together, and then came the showdown Monday morning, corporate HQ. Morrison walked in all smiles, expecting another pat on the back. Instead, Victoria laid out the numbers: 100% of Black front-of-house staff fired, 80% of Latinos reassigned, 0 white employees ever punished for the same infractions. Morrison sputtered, tried to bluff, then watched in real time as emails, voice recordings, and even a video of him toasting my firing were put up on the big screen. That's when I walked in, box of files in hand, and laid it all out for the board. Morrison said I was just a Black waiter, easy to get rid of. I told him, you're right. I was, until you made me smarter. His empire crumbled in front of him. The press were waiting. The board had seen enough, and Victoria handed him his walking papers on the spot. As security walked him out, he looked at me like he still couldn't figure out how it had all turned upside down. Afterward, Victoria asked how I felt. Not vindicated, I said, just free. For the first time, I could breathe without worrying about being judged for my existence. Morrison's reputation was shot. He couldn't even get a job managing a strip mall taco joint after that. 6 months later, I stood in Kibo, the new spot in Harlem, part Japanese restaurant, part revolution. I was co-owner with 30% of the business, and I hired back everyone Morrison ever pushed out. The place thrived, the food was next level, the staff were like family. People of every background filled the tables, and nobody worried about being the wrong kind of customer. Critics raved, reservations were booked solid, and my mom finally got to retire. The best part? Morrison, the guy who tried to destroy me, was last seen begging for work in the suburbs, but honestly, the real victory wasn't revenge. It was building something so good that all his poison looked small by comparison. So, here's my question for you when someone tries to bury you. Do you just take it, or do you build something so undeniable they can't ignore you anymore? Let's talk about what real justice looks like. Drop your thoughts below because maybe, just maybe, it's time to rewrite the rules together.